Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm speaking with Rick Peters, the CISO of Operational Technology for North America at Fortinet. In conjunction with the Fortinet Security Transformation Summit 2020, I'm Billy Mitchell, Editor-in-Chief of FedScoop. And Rick, welcome to the show today.
Hey, appreciate the opportunity, Billy. Looking forward to the conversation.
I am as well. The summit is a very exciting topic, and there's a lot going on in the way of federal cybersecurity that I'd like to talk about. I think the perfect way to dive into this conversation today is to talk about the thing on everyone's mind, and that is the pandemic. And particularly, I want to ask you, how has the pandemic impacted the way government organizations must think about their cybersecurity?
Well, that's a great question, and certainly the government didn't have carte blanche, right? And having to figure out how to extend access, right? For well, I'll call a limited array of business functions. Obviously, they can't do everything. There's a lot of classified and sensitive work that gets done, and that's very challenging. There have been some efforts to try and make that a little more extensible, but it's difficult. But yet, the ultimate goal is right is to protect a new environment, an extended environment that goes beyond the physical boundary of the facilities. Whether you're talking about federal agencies, the intelligence community, the military services, they're all in it to continue to figure out how to do business. And it also involves the protection of intelligence information data at rest and in transit. So we have to be thinking beyond just protection of that office environment and think about home-based attacks and threats in that environment. I think we have to consider the diversity of the experience of the workforce, because we have to be careful that we're not demanding too much of everybody who's out there trying to continue to manifest business and accomplish things efficiently. So the departments, again, across the government are about stabilizing, sustaining their mission, optimizing their presence, but realizing, you know what, we've got a pretty committed adversary out there. They're showcasing their ability to disrupt. And whether their intent is extortion, espionage, or sabotage, they're showing their capacity and commitment to that endeavor.
Sure. There's not just a pandemic going on, but agencies are also really looking to transform and modernize their cybersecurity at the same time, sort of predating that going on for years now. As they do look to transform and modernize, what elements do you see as the most important to ensuring their long-term success?
Well, I think you have to extensively employ cybersecurity best practices, and you need to do that for both a centralized and distributed enterprise. That sounds easy. The good news is, you can start by establishing a security framework that sort of embodies all of those best practices. A great example of that's the NIST cybersecurity framework. And so, whether you're talking about the identification, protection, detection, response and recovery elements, it kind of breaks it down right into a way that you can then consume and think about each of those areas and the cybersecurity practices you're putting into play. Because it really is about understanding from achieved visibility, where I'm in trying to enforce a level of protection and interrogation, because certainly we can't protect what we can't see. It's about control. Think about microsegmentation as an example of achieving containment. I need to be able to understand that from the moment that I recognize an incident's happening, something that looks a little bit strange or off, I've got to be able to capitalize on my ability to contain that. And then I've got to be able to think beyond that, be a little more resilient, start thinking about things that are along the lines of automated awareness. Now we're talking about doing some behavioral analysis, really thinking about combating that threat surface, attack surface on the inside. And again, understanding that those behaviors can come about due to insider threat, could be coerced, could be insider access, it could be operator error. It can even be hardware, software, systematic failures. We have to be able to cover that whole gamut, and it's really about readiness.
So you mentioned some advanced techniques, behavioral analysis, things like that, but I'd love to take it a step further and talk about modern technologies like AI and how those bolster cybersecurity.
So, AI as a live topic, right? Gets everybody excited, but I think you have to, peek below the covers to see what they're really talking about. When an NTC says, "Hey, we're investing in artificial intelligence and our ability to extend protection and situational awareness," you have to take a look at what we're really talking about. I'm talking about a more proactive cybersecurity strategy that entails, again, defending from the inside out. not thinking about just the perimeter, but a recognition. And in fact, at Fortinet, we've seen survey data that depicts for operational technology, a landscape where leaders are saying, yeah, from 60 to 90% of us, our systems have been compromised. A lot of that is due to legacy hardware and software being in the field for 10, 20, even 30 years. So there's an exponential opportunity for the adversary to take advantage of that attack surface and get on point and then accomplish a variety of techniques, right? Their disruption is going to prevail. So where you take it the next step with AI is really leveraging backside threat intelligence. These are services that are intended to provide a lot of power, a lot of intelligence analysis, behavioral analysis, and they do that at the speed of business. So when events are occurring, whether it's IT, OT, or some amalgamation of that, I'm able to share live intelligence, actionable intelligence to the edge, and allows me to defend my infrastructure more proactively. Certainly a much better place to be.
So I think, a lot of the things we talked about today, the culmination of them kind of sit under this topic, zero trust. It's become a buzzword, but it's arguably something that's here to stay. And I don't know necessarily, I'm not the expert. I'm not sure whether it's here to stay, but I'd love to get your thought. Is zero trust the real deal? Is it a buzzword, or is it, here to stay?
So it's a characterization, right, of what it means to be ultra sensitive to protecting your environment. There's no perfect security. It's a constant pursuit of raising the security bar. And if somebody were to say, oh, there's a perfect science to it, I would challenge that, because certainly adversaries, structured or otherwise, have exhibited a persistence and a desire to get on target. So I think employing a never trust, always verify mindset's really smart. That's kind of what you underpins zero trust network access on. Insisting on earned trust, both for dynamic and expanding networks, and then it gives you a chance to practice the principle of least privilege. And I think when you start talking about what we've experienced in 2020, certainly pandemic driven, we can think about our internal and external comms, right, to ensure limited access. You hear the term role-based access. I think that's a great one, because it's really now enforcing that controlled access with multi-factor authentication. Because at the end of the day, we're really talking about limiting the impact, preventing unintentional or intentional damage. And the table stakes are high. We've already talked about the fact that the adversary doesn't practice ethics. Their playbook's wide open. Yeah. And you don't have to look beyond ransomware, which has exploded over the last 18 months. That's a terrific example, right? They can hold an entity hostage by using asymmetric cryptography. Wow, who thought about that? Yeah. So cyber resilience today is really understanding that we're the target environment, and then protecting our intellectual property, whether we're talking about our physical plant, the actual data, the intelligence, our brand reputation, and ultimately the most important thing, the customer client trust, because that's really what it's about. The stakes are high. And I think zero trust network access is one element of a strategy that we need to be mindful of.
I think that's a great way to put it. Thanks for your insights today, Rick. It's been tremendous chatting with you, and I look forward to the next time we can chat again.
Thanks, Billy. Likewise.